Hi, this is the Rachel Ham Show. I'm Rachel Ham. Thank you so much for joining us today. Just in case you're maybe new around here, I'm going to take a second to tell you a little bit about me. So in 2022, I ran for the Secretary of State for the state of California. But before I ran, I had kind of like a pretty normal life-ish. My husband and I started dating when we were 17 years old. We got married when we were 20. We've been married for 26 years. That makes me 46, in case you don't want to have to do any math. And we have 4 sons. We were told actually that we would never be able to have children, but we did indeed have children. And I was actually pregnant 6 weeks after we were told we would not have kids. So kind of interesting. We had 3 biologically, and then we ended up adopting our 4th son. The 3 oldest are all adults, and our youngest is 17 and a half. So I'm almost to the stage of having all adult children. I love this stage of life. But when they were mostly graduated and then like high school, junior high age, I took a very part-time job with Live Nation. So for 20 years, I had been a stay-at-home mom, solely focused on taking care of my home, my husband, my children, which was very rewarding. But then I also had time on my hands suddenly. And so I ended up working for Live Nation, the largest concert promoter in the world. And it was a blast because I absolutely love music. And I was paid to host the biggest artists in the world and attend concerts for free. Well, not just for free. I was paid to do it. It was awesome. It was such a fun time. I really got to host some amazing, amazing artists and musicians, and it was the thrill of a lifetime for me. But when COVID hit, all of that came to a screeching halt. There were no shows, as you know, and I ended up starting a YouTube show. I started it mostly because, number one, I was furious about what I saw happening in my country. And 2, I was a prophetic dreamer. And so often I would see things in my dreams before they happened. And indeed, I had seen COVID in my dreams July 13th, 2019. And I wanted to have a place where I could come and talk about that, like share the things that I was seeing and sensing. And I just needed to have a platform. Even if only one person watches, right? I'll start this show for that one person. So I started it in August of 2020. And one thing led to another through that process of doing a show where I ended up meeting high-level political people and ended up ultimately January 30th of 2021 feeling like the Lord was calling me to run for Secretary of State. And I ran for Secretary of State because the Secretary of State is the chief elections officer for a state. So I felt like that was the most important thing I could do at that time to secure our elections. And I do really strongly still believe that honest, free, fair, secured elections are the bedrock of a constitutional republic. But recently, my focus has shifted. I had been pretty hyper-focused on elections, and I'd been working with a coalition all across the nation of America First Secretary of State candidates and many advisors from the intel community and military people and all kinds of really phenomenal cream of the crop people. And it's been a joy, and we still meet actually every single Friday to constantly assess and work together regarding how we can basically get our country back. So recently, my shift focused a little bit away just from being really hyper-focused on elections to something a little different. And it was actually something that I felt like God was stirring in me over the last few months, and then really was solidified through a conversation that I had with General Michael Flynn. So starting in December, I began traveling back and forth from California to Palm Beach to spend time at Mar-a-Lago. Got to have a couple of conversations with the president and got to meet a lot of amazing people. And it was wonderful, right? There's a lot about being there that makes you feel like you're just in the middle of living history. And even I was there, when the first indictment came down, and got to really see the president come out and see his face, see his demeanor, and be there for what is undoubtedly unprecedented, uncharted territory in our country. So that's amazing. I'm so glad I got to have that experience. But something happened on the last trip back. When I got back to California, I was cleaning and cooking and doing some stuff for my family and setting the table to make a nice family dinner, which I love to do and have done our whole lives. And I just had such a joy. And I realized I actually have so much more joy right now making this meal and setting this table for my family than I've had in all of these months, traveling back and forth, living history, being with the president, staying in his home, like, all this amazing stuff. And yet I had greater joy caring for my family. And I just kind of like took note of that. Like, that's really interesting. It's kind of an interesting little thing that took me by surprise, I guess you would say. So I took note of it and continued just to enjoy caring for my family when I had a conversation with General Flynn. And I said, everywhere I go, people ask me, what can I do to save the country? And it's usually with like a tone of hopelessness, like, what can I even do? What can we do? What can we do to save the country? And his answer really surprised me. And I wanted to share it with you because I think that it's going to encourage you to know that there's something you can do. In fact, there's something every single one of us can do. It does not matter if we're young or old or women or men. It doesn't matter what stage of life we're in. It doesn't matter if we're married or single. None of that matters. We can all do the things on this list, or at least some of the things on this list. So here are the 4 things that General Flynn told me to tell people when they say, what can we do to save the country? Number 1, plant a garden and get livestock and chickens if you can, enough for yourself and others. That part scared me a little bit, not going to lie, because I didn't like what it potentially implied, but I've gotten over that. And now I felt empowered and, well, I actually did it. I planted a garden. Number 2, put up an American flag. Number 3, put pictures of yourself and your family on social media to promote all American family values. And number 4, invite your neighbors over for dinner, whether you agree with them or not. Translation: go back to the basics of caring for yourself, your family, your neighbors, and your community. Go back to the basics of all American good salt of the earth values. Go back to knowing who your neighbors are and actually being involved relationally with your community. And also promoting those things, right? Publicly promoting them. We know that people who hate our country are promoting all kinds of agendas, but are we promoting what we love? We love our country. We love our family. Are we promoting that as much as possible on social media so that that is what is in front of people's faces? What's right with America? What's right with good, godly families and values? So I began doing that. In fact, I have done all of those things. And, I realized that hospitality is something that is a big part of my life. But when I say to you, have your neighbors over, even if you don't agree with them politically and all that, that might feel like, I can't do that. Kind of overwhelming. In fact, a lot of people tell me when they come to my house for dinner, they say, oh, you're so good at this. I can't do this. Well, that's not true. That's not true. And I want to help you today go over some of the basics of hospitality and maybe help you see hospitality differently. I really want to inspire every single person watching. It doesn't matter. All those categories I mentioned, men, women, young, old, single, married, whatever, it doesn't matter. You can make hospitality a part of your life. And in fact, I'm asking, and General Flynn is asking, that you would do that. Please, please, please do not underestimate the power of hospitality you ready for this? To change the world. Change the world. Okay, so let's talk about how in the world hospitality can actually change the world. Okay, hospitality is an opportunity to make people feel seen and cared for. It unifies us. It makes people feel loved. It's really a gift that we give people. More than ever, we need to go back to those good old-fashioned basics of loving our neighbor as ourselves. And I want to help you make hospitality part of your life and give you strategies to make you feel like it's something you really can do. It really is for everyone. It's important, though, that you think of hospitality as a gift you're giving someone because it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work to be hospitable. That's why I think a lot of people don't do it. They don't want to. It's just a lot of work. Or they feel overwhelmed, like they don't know where to start. They feel like they can't do it. It's too much. But it's not too much. You can do it. But at the same time, it is a lot of work. And so if you stay focused on why you're doing it, it will give you the incentive to keep going when it's a lot of work. So here are some things to consider about hospitality. Hospitality is not about serving food. It's about gifting an experience, and it's about connection. There's a wide range of types of hospitality. You can serve popcorn and water, filet mignon and silver oak cabernet, or anything in between. It's really not about that. It's not about the food. It doesn't have to be fancy, although it can be. And I think there's a place and time for that. And it doesn't have to be super casual. It can be anything. It can be literally having a bowl of popcorn, a glass of ice water, and sitting there and visiting with a friend. It costs about $1 to do that. And it's not a lot of work. But again, it's not about the food. It's about the connection that you would have as you sat over that bowl of popcorn, talking and laughing. Okay, I'm going to show you a clip here of Will Guidara. I think that's how you say his name. And I really loved this quote from him. He said, "Hospitality is not about serving dinner. It's about serving memories." I think that's fantastic. Okay, so take a look at this clip of Will, who is known for his amazing, exceptional hospitality. He owns a restaurant that was called the best restaurant in the world, and it's because of his amazing hospitality. He wrote a book about hospitality. Take a look at this clip.
See, that hot dog changed the way I approach restaurants from that point forward. Because up until then, I had been so focused on excellence, on all the little details that go into making a meal great, that I somehow hadn't realized something really important. That in restaurants, our reason for being is to make people feel seen. It's to make them feel welcome. It's to give them a sense of belonging. See, in restaurants, the food, the service, the design, they're simply ingredients in the recipe of human connection. That is hospitality. And I realized if we could be unreasonable in our pursuit of that, we could give people the kind of experiences they would remember forever. It was only then that I realized I wasn't actually in the business of serving people dinner. I was in the business of serving them memories.
Wasn't that great? Such a great perspective, right? Okay, so when it comes to hospitality, kind of we want to follow the golden rule. And the reason I say kind of is because we want to be the kind of hosts that are hosting people in the way that they want to be hosted, not in the way that we would want to be hosted. And that takes paying attention. It does. Now, please hear me. Don't get overwhelmed by all the things that I'm going to share and all the advice I'm going to give. You can just take one thing that I share about hospitality and implement it, and you'll be better off for it. But also, you can implement all of it if you want to and be an amazing hostess. So just don't get overwhelmed as I talk. Just take it one thing at a time, and just know you can do it. You can do some of it, none of it, all of it, whatever. It's not about being perfect. It's just about making people feel loved and coming together and unifying, okay? So keep that in mind. And I want you to know that everything that I'm sharing today is going to be on my website. My website is rachelham.com. So you can see here, this is the homepage where I have a little welcome video explaining the website to you. You can scroll down and always find my latest episode of The Rachel Ham Show on Rumble first and then on YouTube, because Rumble allows free speech. And then if you go over to the resources tab, you can click on that, and things that I talk about in the show will be listed on that page so that you can go and quickly find a specific episode number, and the resources that I mentioned in the episode will be listed there. So I'm very excited. I finally found someone who can, on an ongoing basis, help me with my website stuff and keep it updated daily as I do things. And so that's exciting. So everything that I mentioned, I have, I'm going to be listing like 13 different things that you can do as a hostess and to be great at hospitality. All of that is going to be on the website, as you can see here. So let's go ahead and get started. This is the Hospitality 101 checklist. Okay. So the first thing that I recommend you do is praying over your home. Now, this is especially important if you're having people into your home that you don't really know, right? Because if you've watched me, you know I'm very spiritual. I love Jesus. I am all about the Holy Spirit, all about using our authority, prayer, the power of prayer, all of that. So I also when I was little, I was in a satanic preschool. So I'm very aware of the dark side of the spiritual spectrum. And a lot of people think it's not even real. God help you if you think it's not real. It's real. And so sometimes people just have darkness on them, especially if they're not Christians, they're not full of light, that whatever, then sometimes they can bring some darkness with them, right? Well, we don't want that darkness coming into our home. So something that I like to do is pray over my home before I have guests over. Now, my husband actually says this prayer, which is on the resources tab on rachelham.com. He says it every single day over our family and our home. But sometimes when we're having company, I will, right before the company arrives, say this prayer. So you can go look at that on the resources tab. The whole prayer is typed out for you so that you can not have to figure that out on your own. You can adapt it, make it your own, whatever, but it'll help as a guide for you. Okay, so pray over your home. The second thing you can do is, to be a great hostess, is set the temperature of your home to be reasonably cool. Have little throw blankets around in case your guests get cold. You can always put a little throw blanket over you when you get cold, but you can only do so much if you're hot. So this is a little bit of a pet peeve of mine. I really hate being hot, and I hate when I go to someone's house and you're like sitting there dripping in sweat, right? So I think it's always better to keep the house cool because you can always warm up. And I do have throw blankets all around my home for people who do tend to be cold, so that they can just grab that, and I'll even offer it. So it's something that you want to be tuned into. Like, people will kind of sometimes they'll give clues about how they're feeling. If you're wanting to be a great host, you want them to be comfortable in temperature, right? So if they're like holding their hair up and fanning themselves or whatever, turn the temperature down, like pay attention to the cue, right? If they're kind of going like this, then grab a throw and say, hey, would you like a little throw blanket? Or whatever, adjust the temperature to make them comfortable. But as a host, pay attention to the cues people will give you, because when they're comfortable in the temperature, they are going to be more comfortable in general. Okay, number 3 is put on some nice background music. You don't want it to be too loud because obviously you want to be able to talk, but it really helps with the tone and the atmosphere of the home if there's some music playing in the background. I have a playlist I love to use whenever it's kind of like a universal guest coming over a playlist, which is Michael Bublé, Frank Sinatra, and Diana Krall, because it makes great background music. Or you can even do like instrumental music, so that it's just something that's gently there. It can be pretty subtle, where it's like, you're not overtly like, whoa, music. It's just that if there's a lull in the conversation, or when they first even come in, it just helps the atmosphere and the tone for there to just be a little something lovely to listen to playing gently in the background. You can also put on worship music, or if you know what kind of music the person you're having over specifically likes, have that music on. I have a friend who loves a few specific artists, so I actually made a playlist with her name, and whenever she's coming over, that playlist is playing, because again, it's one of those subtle things that helps that person feel loved, feel like they're glad to be there. You have music playing that makes them happy, right? That's what you want. You want your guests to feel great and be happy and enjoying themselves. So if you have the advantage of knowing what music they like, make a little playlist and have it on just for them. Number 4, when your guest arrives, show them where they can set their jacket or their purse, show them where the bathroom is, and if you feel comfortable, even give them a little tour of the house. Showing them these things helps them make it to feel more comfortable. So when people come in, they tend to have something in their hand, right? And the first question they're going to have is, where can I set this? So as soon as they come in, go ahead, you can set your purse right here. If you need to go to the restroom, it's right over here. And if you're comfortable and you want to, you can give them a tour of the home. What I have found is giving people a tour of the home. It doesn't matter if it's it doesn't have to be a nice house. It doesn't matter. It does not matter at all. It doesn't matter. It could be in a little apartment. What it does is helps people to kind of feel like they know the lay of the land. It's like, it just makes them feel more comfortable. You're not wondering like, what's in that room, or what's going on. It helps put people at ease. It's a weird little thing that I have noticed that when people have done it for me, it helps me feel more comfortable. And when I've done it for others, it's the same. So just, if you feel comfortable, offer, hey, would you like to see our house? Show them around, tell them what's what, and tell them to make themselves feel at home. The next thing that I always do when a guest arrives is offer them a drink. People feel more comfortable if they have something in their hand. And sometimes people can feel uncomfortable in social situations, especially at first. So it's good to have little things that you can do to help them feel comfortable. A lot of people deal with social anxiety, and there's something about having a drink in your hand or having something to do with your hand that helps people to feel more comfortable. So right away, sometimes even before I give them a tour of the house, I'll say, hey, what can I get you to drink? And I'll list options that I have for them and get that drink into their hand. It just kind of puts them at ease a little bit, gives them something to hold on to. And I just feel like that is a way to make people immediately feel comfortable. The next thing that I suggest you do, number 6, is if you're not going to be eating right away, have a light appetizer or snack out on the kitchen counter for them. Even just nice cheese or gourmet crackers will do, because you don't want to have to kill yourself to make an amazing appetizer and an amazing meal. In fact, if you make a really amazing appetizer, a lot of times people will get full on the appetizer and then they don't eat that much of your dinner. So don't kill yourself with an appetizer, is my opinion. Spend more time on the meal and less time on the appetizer. But again, with that social anxiety thing, I think it helps people feel more comfortable if there's something out. Sometimes they won't even eat it. So you don't really want to put a lot of expense or energy into the appetizer. Again, a nice little gourmet cheese, gourmet crackers, put it out, little cocktail napkins right in front of it. Just helps them know if they need to, there's some food right there that they can grab, and tell them to help themselves. Make sure that you always are thinking in terms of you being the leader. You know, they're not going to automatically eat. You have to tell them, help yourself. So that's just something that can put people at ease, and buys you a little time if you're needing more time to cook, so that if they're starving, you know, they have a little something there. All right, number 7. Determine the style of your hospitality. Will you be super casual, paper plates, paper napkins, moderately casual, or formal? Formal would be like china, crystal, that type of thing, right? So you need to determine before you even have the guests, what kind of evening is this? Is this going to be super casual, medium, or super fancy, so that you know how to plan accordingly. And I'm going to be doing another show showing you how to set a table and showing you different styles of hospitality and table settings, so that you can feel confident in setting a table the right way, or just in a way that is good for you and your guests. Number 8. If you have alcohol or are serving alcohol, make sure you always set a glass of water by everyone's seat at the table. When drinking alcohol, people usually end up needing or wanting water too. It's good to keep a little pitcher of water by the table too, so that you don't have to get up and leave the table to freshen up people's water. Speaking of which, I want some water right now. Good lemon water. Number 9. Think through some questions that you can ask your guests before they arrive. Then when you ask questions, genuinely listen to their answers. Genuinely listen to their answers. So important. Listening well is one of the greatest gifts we can give the guests that we bring into our home. People are starving for someone to listen to them. Truly, I really believe this with all my heart. If you let your guests do most of the talking for the evening and you truly listen to them, often they will leave feeling like they loved being at your home. It's so fun, because sometimes my husband and I will ask people questions and just listen to them talk. And often people love to talk. They love to talk about themselves, and they're so excited that someone is actually listening to them. So sometimes they can just talk. So it's fun when occasionally we have said almost nothing. Like the guest talked the whole time. And then they'll tell us the next day, oh my gosh, that was such a fun night. That was great. We had so much fun. And I will think, well, I bet you did. Because we listened to you talk the whole night, which is a gift that I gave them. And I was happy to do it. I was doing it intentionally. But I love hearing how it made them feel. They felt like it was such a great evening. Maybe they won't even be able to pinpoint why. But, they'll remember how it made them feel. Like, remember that Maya Angelou quote? I can't remember it exactly, but it was like, people won't remember what you say. They won't remember what you do, but they'll remember how you made them feel. I think that is so true. And hospitality is a situation where we have an amazing opportunity to make people feel so good. Why wouldn't we want to do that, right? All right, number 10. When you have company over, remember that you're the leader of the evening. It's your home, so you set the tone and direct the time. It can be nice to move from room to room. So start with maybe standing around the kitchen, having an appetizer and drink while you're finishing dinner. Then you're going to go to your dining room table for dinner. And then after dinner, suggest that people move. A lot of people feel more comfortable sitting on a couch or maybe sitting out like on the back patio if the weather's nice, something like that. It can be a little bit more comfortable than just staying at the dining table. But again, sometimes when we're doing hospitality, we're just starting out, maybe like I was okay, this is so funny. I grew up with my parents being really hospitable, and I loved it as a kid so much. I loved when we had company. It was the best. And my mom was amazing at hospitality. So was my dad. It's totally a joint thing. Like my parents both equally are very hospitable, and same with my husband and I. We very much both do all of this stuff. We get the house ready. We set the table together. We make the conversation with people, all of it, right? Usually when guests first arrive, it's my husband that gets the drinks for them or something like that. So it's very much a team thing, although you can do it alone, and I've done it alone. So it doesn't matter if your husband isn't willing to help, or if you're maybe even a single dad, you don't have a wife, whatever, you can do it alone. It doesn't matter. It's not required, but it is lovely when both of you are willing to participate in it. So anyway, when we first got married, I was wanting to have company over, but I had never learned how to cook. Now, my mom tried. She wanted to teach me how to cook. I never wanted to learn. I did not care. I just liked her cooking for me. Oh my gosh, it was so bad. So I called my mom. I'd been married like a month, and I said, we're having company for dinner. I'm so excited, except for I don't know how to cook dinner. So what do I do? And she laughed and she was like, I tried to teach you. I'm like, I know you did. But okay, so now I want to learn. What do I do? She said, well, why don't you just make spaghetti? Super easy. You can even just do a jar of sauce, regular noodles, French bread, salad, easy. Well, easy to her. Okay. So I still had her like walk me through what to buy, went to the store, bought the stuff, came back home, called my mom. This was before cell phones. Called my mom and said, Mom, I bought the spaghetti, but it's crunchy. And she was like, well, yeah, you have to cook it. I'm like, what? How do you cook it? And she said, well, you boil water and put the noodles in the boiling water. And I said, okay. How do you boil water? I am not kidding. I wish I were kidding. That is how much I did not know when I first started out in this whole adventure of being hospitable. So just know that if you know absolutely nothing like I did, you can learn. And so I'm really like proof of that. So that's my beginning hospitality story. It's ridiculous. Okay, let's go to the next one. Number 11. Be observant. If your guest drinks get down to maybe 25% left, offer them a refill. If they start looking around, ask if they need anything. If they start rubbing their arms like they're cold, offer a throw blanket. If they're fanning themselves, turn on a fan or lower the temperature, right? So pay attention. It's basically be observant and thoughtful and paying attention to them and what they seem to be wanting or needing. If they seem bored, like, if it's kind of the conversation's not flowing, you can say, hey, would you like to play a game? Maybe play a game. That can be good, especially if you're just getting to know someone, or again, that conversation is just like a little bit not flowing well. It can give you something to do to kind of shift you out of just having to sit and make conversation. So be observant. That's really a key to being a good hostess. Okay, number 12. Ask your guests ahead of time if there's anything that they don't eat. You can also ask them what they like to drink. So I always ask people, is there anything that you don't eat? And, often, almost every single time, someone has something. Like a lot of times people say, we don't like fish, or I don't like onions, or I don't like broccoli, or whatever. So it's great because the last thing you want to do is invite people over for dinner, sit down and serve a meal, and they do not eat what you serve. So ask ahead of time, is there anything you don't eat? And then sometimes I'll say, what do you usually like to have to drink with your dinner? Or, something, if there's something specific, it kind of depends on the situation. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm more interested in serving what I think will go well with the meal. And then I try to have options. So a lot of times I will have would you like a glass of wine? I'll offer red and white, and I have one of both available. So no matter what they like, I've got it. I also will always have water or sparkling water or lemonade or sometimes a soda. It just depends. So I try to have a variety of options. If you're able to afford to do that, it's great. It helps people feel comfortable. They get to have what they actually like to drink. So options are great if you can do it. Okay, number 13. Let your guests know ahead of time how to dress. I often say something like, we'll be wearing shorts and flip-flops. Please come comfortable. So depending on what kind of dinner you're going to be having, if you want to have a little bit more, make a moderately casual / formal dinner, then, you can just say, come comfortably. This is what we'll be wearing. We'll be wearing, slacks and a shirt or whatever. I always try to tell them what I will be wearing so that they know, if they want to fit in with the kind of atmosphere I'm creating, the kind of dinner I'm creating, then they can do that. They're always free to dress, of course, more up or more down if they want to. But I think that they like to know. I like to know if I'm going to someone's house, I want to know, like, how are they going to be dressed? Should I be coming in my shorts and flip flops, or is this like everyone's going to be wearing a dress? So I do tell people how I will be dressing. I really like people to feel comfortable. So I tend to say, come comfortable. Please dress comfortably, because then, it makes more sense to me that if they feel comfortable with what they're wearing and feel comfortable in what they're wearing, they're going to feel more comfortable in general for the evening. Although for some people, they feel more comfortable if they're dressed up. So, just let them know how you're going to be dressing, what you want them to do, if there's any direction for them. If it's going to be something really formal, make sure you let them know that, right? No one wants to show up dressed super casually and you have like fine china and crystal and you're in a dress and they feel awkward then. So just, tell them ahead of time how to dress. Okay, so I hope that all of these tips have helped you feel like maybe it's a good foundation for getting started to invite someone over for dinner. In future episodes, I'm going to be showing you how to set a table and how to do a variety of different types of dinners, casual, formal, and moderately in between. And then I also am going to show you how to make one of my favorite meals that I make when company's coming. Super easy, has like 3 ingredients. It doesn't break the bank. And I am telling you, I have never served it and not had people love it. It's so ridiculously delicious. So I'm going to show you those in future episodes so that you can use those to help you maybe also be a great hostess. But remember, it's not about the food. It's not about perfection. It's not about impressing people. Like, please just know that if you are being hospitable and you're trying to impress people that are coming over, the exact opposite is what's going to happen. Because you can feel that, right? People can feel when you're just wanting to have everything perfect and impress them. That's not what people want. People want to feel loved. We're really at a place in our country where people are starving for connection. They're starving for feeling like they're being seen and heard and cared for. We are so disconnected and living such separate lives. And there's a lot of good that could be done simply by having someone over for dinner. So I want to encourage you to do that. You can do it. You can also just have them for popcorn and water if you want. That's fine. You can be super casual because it's not about that. It's about the connection. Don't underestimate how powerful hospitality can be. So who are you going to invite over? That's the real question, right? Who are you going to invite over? Your neighbor, a family member, maybe to practice if you're kind of new at it, then just, have someone that you feel really comfortable with so that if you just mess everything up, it won't matter. But I think you're going to find that hospitality is a wonderful thing to incorporate into your life. And think about it. General Flynn with the top 4 things that everyone can do to change the fabric of our country, to get our country back. And having your neighbor over for dinner was on that list. You can do it. I believe in you. Okay, so go to rachelham.com, go to the resources tab, scroll down, see the prayer there that I used, and then you can see all of the notes from today's show so that you don't have to remember all of this or write it all down, and so that you can reference it to help you be a great hostess. We're really entering a very interesting time as a nation. I believe that wholeheartedly, that really war type times are coming. And hospitality is a very important thing and tool that needs to be incorporated into our lives. Think about it. If we go to war, Do you want to know who your neighbor is? And do you want to have actual relationship with them? Or do you want to just like pass, you're waving and like going to the garage, closing the door? See, that's what we're doing, right? We tend to be kind of retreating into our own lives and our own homes. But I want to encourage you to get to know every single person on your block. If the you-know-what hits the fan, which I'm pretty sure it's going to, we need to know our neighbors and we need them to know us. We need to have relationship, and hospitality is a great way to make that happen. I think that we're heading into a very interesting time as a nation. And I think that hospitality needs to be a big part of this new phase that we enter. So I hope that you'll take this seriously. I hope that you'll consider doing it. And I hope that today's show was a blessing and was helpful to you. I'll see you on the next episode of The Rachel Ham Show. And until then, make sure and like and subscribe on my YouTube and Rumble channel. Make sure and go to rachelham.com, check out the resources. And God bless you, and know that you are loved. See you next time. Bye.